Hello, hello, hello. Good morning. Let's see, the thing's going. All right. Good morning. Hello, welcome to yet another episode of Red Stone Lapis Lazuli. It is I, your host, Pogo Kiddo. I'm going to try to start this map up at the same time as I switch. Check it out. Oh, how nice. Hey, good morning. Good morning. Yes, it is I, your host, this morning. I'm wearing this nice shirt, right? Isn't this a nice shirt? Happiness. I can't even read it from here. But basically, I got this shirt in I got this shirt in Bangkok in like 2007 at a t-shirt shop that was right by the hostel. I was, well, like outside by the train station or the bus stop where at the hostel where I was staying in Bangkok. I got it in size medium because that's what fit me after 3.5 months of backpacking through Asia. Doesn't quite fit so much anymore, but that's okay. It's a nice shirt, right? It's a nice shirt, and I remember the message was pretty good. So I can't read it right now, but that's all right. Hey, check it out. I'm in this Minecraft world. This is my Minecraft world. I have not done anything to my Minecraft world. Why not? Why not? Why haven't you done anything to your Minecraft world? Because I've been playing this other game called Baldur's Gate 3. Oh boy, is that a fun game. The number of choices you can make are so many that it's redonkulous. And then you get to the tactical combat. And I'm like, oh man, tactical combat. I remember this. Like, you ever play Final Fantasy Tactics? So, yeah, it's like playing Final Fantasy Tactics, but with like a bigger storyline, a different storyline. And I played AD&D when I was a kid, like second edition, but I still played it, so I understand what everything is. You know, none of the stuff is unfamiliar to me. Well, some of it, like some of the stuff is new, but like a lot of it's just like, oh yeah, I know this. So I don't have to like learn a new system. I already know what's going on. But I dig it, yeah. And this morning, I was checking up on the progress for Ukraine's progress in their attempt to defend themselves from Russian aggression, the Russian invasion. And I've heard a lot of criticisms for Ukraine that there hasn't been a big breakthrough moment that everyone wanted. They haven't made the gigantic gains that everyone wanted them to make. And I hear that it's a fundamental misunderstanding of the West, that the West has with regards to the nature of this conflict. This conflict doesn't have air superiority. Ukraine does not have a shit ton of people just to throw into a meat grinder for a push. It doesn't have that. It needs to preserve like every single person it can. So it can't take these risky pushes that the West wants them to make to show off to their people. It has to think more strategically. And so it's been acting that way. And I'm like, well, how does that play out? What does that look like when Ukraine doesn't throw people into a meat grinder and instead pursues different tactics? What are these different tactics that they pursue? Well, Ukraine, with their superior hardware, less people, less manpower, but superior hardware. I wouldn't even say superior hardware because some of the Russian stuff is pretty good. But superior training, how about that? Superior tactics. What they're doing is, because Russians aren't stupid. So what they're doing is, since like an all-out assault would be kind of futile, it doesn't really work. What they've been doing is like doing a campaign of attrition, of attacking not the troops themselves, the hardened positions, but finding their logistics and hammering their logistics, so that even if the Russians maintain a hard position that you can't attack directly, by attacking their logistics and then wearing them down bit by bit, you degrade their combat functionality over the long term. It doesn't happen quick. It's not glorious. It doesn't make for good press. You can't show a picture of an exploding like supply line. Like you can't show a picture of a degrading Russian military. You know, it doesn't. You don't see pictures of it, but it happens, and it's effective. It really works. It works really well, because in that way, Ukrainians don't suffer unnecessary casualties. They don't have the manpower. They don't have just the raw numbers that the Russians do. They don't have that many people. You can't just expect them to throw all their people into a meat grinder. So they've been slowly chipping away using the HIMARS that the U.S. has provided, and these other airborne missiles that I think Russia or the UK has provided with an even longer range. And they've been taking out supply depots, ammo depots. They've been attacking the bridges. They're attacking the logistics so that the entrenched positions can't maintain. All right. What does that look like? So, in one instance, if you look at it from the optics of the West, of traditional Western thinking, which is not working right now, this is what you see. You see Bakhmut under the control of Russia, and that's all you see. And you say, oh look, the Ukrainians couldn't even stop the Russians from taking over another town. They couldn't even stop it. But that's the wrong way of thinking about it. That's snapshot way of thinking about it, because you're not looking at it in the terms of the big picture. You have to look at this and say, what did this cost Russia? What was the cost of this territory gain? How long did it take? How much hardware and manpower did it cost them? Do you know what is called a Pyrrhic victory? A Pyrrhic victory? It's a victory that was so costly that it almost wasn't worth it. That it was almost like a loss. A victory that was so costly, it was almost like a loss. And it was named after a commander, Pyre or something? Commander Pyre? I don't know. Pyrrhic victory. But he held a defense, and he won, but it cost him so many troops that it almost wasn't worth it. If he won like that again, it would end the war. He couldn't win anymore after that if he won like that again. So Russia, what Russia did is they spent like months and months and months and ridiculous numbers of lives in order to take this city. And they had to use and they couldn't just use regular Russian army. They had to use a special unit called, mercenaries, called the Wagner Group, led by Prigozhin. Who is Prigozhin? Prigozhin is the guy who attacked the United States in 2016 with his internet research agency, and he's the guy who staged a mutiny on Putin. And tried to like take out Putin. So they had to use the Wagner Group in order to do this. Now, in order to do that, the Wagner Group needed to take the Russian convicts out of Russian prisons, and then say, "Look, guy, you can either sit in this prison, or you can go like fight for your freedom, and then you're free." Or maybe they didn't even have a choice. They're like, "This is part of your sentence now. You go work for them," and then they're given like nothing by the Wagner Group, and they're like, "All right, all right, new troops, go take that position over there. And of course they're gonna die. They almost, of course, they all know. So they're gonna try. They rush over there, and then way off in the corner, from the rubble comes machine gun fire, and it kills all the people. And they do that 5 or 6 times. The 5 or 6 groups of convicts. Eventually, the Wagner group's like, oh, I can see where the machine gun fire is coming from. We can like maneuver to take them out. And then, ta-da! They gain 10 meters. After how many convicts do they sacrifice for that? How much artillery fire? How much like stuff did they use to get that 10 meters? So in a way, you can look at Bakhmut the same way that you looked at that armored column that entered in from Belarus and tried to take over Kyiv. There's this ginormous column of tanks and supplies and shit coming down to go into Kyiv to take out the entire, to like do a decapitation, take out the capital city and destroy the government of Ukraine. That was their plan, but they got bottlenecked and they got stuck on that track of land, so on that track of highway, so that they felt that they were advancing, but really they were just slowing down everything behind them, so that it never arrived. It never made it. The Ukrainians, people were saying, Ukrainians, you're crazy for not attacking that column. It's just sitting there. It's just sitting there. But by not attacking the column, they were able to hit everything behind the column. and so the column had like no reserves, no fuel, no nothing. Like, you gotta, the Ukrainians are doing war differently because they don't have the superiority that the West does. Okay, of arms. Okay, so Bakhmut was similar. It cost Russia so much to take over this city, which is functionally worthless, and they can't go forward from this point. They rule over ruins. There's nothing there. No people live there. There's nothing there, and these are high ground positions where Ukraine has right now. So they can't go anywhere. Meanwhile, to the south, right here, this is a ginormous amount of advance the Ukrainians have taken. This is what, yesterday? This is yesterday. As of yesterday, the Ukrainians have advanced all this much, dude. All that much, which doesn't seem like a lot, right? But if you put it into context of where the war was moving, where it was going, yeah, it's a pretty significant chunk. It's a huge advancement. Bam, bam. Like, because it's just nothing stopping you from here. Like the line broke. This line of defense has broken, and they're pouring through right here. So look at this in the big picture. You have the war happening in 2 fronts. Up over here is Bakhmut, and down over here is the other push. So Russia poured in forces from everywhere to hold this city. And they drained it. By doing that, they drained it from all these southern positions. And then now that because they expected Ukraine to push again to try to take that city, Bakhmut. But instead, Ukraine's got them off balance. And now they're pushing from down here. So Russia has to transfer all its troops all across the southern border in order to southern lines in order to get there. Let's see. This is like, so here we go. We got Bakhmut up here, where the Russians spent months and months and months taking and pouring in all their forces from all over the place to come here. But the actual push is happening like down here. So in order to secure this, because they broke through today. In order to secure this, they have to transfer troops from here all the way back down to here. And all of this is within artillery range. This is all artillery range. So they can get attacked anyway along the transfer. Like, and that was on purpose, right? Ukraine like degraded all of Russia's logistics so that it's difficult for them to transfer people and troops around. They have to, and the reserves are like depleted. So it's terrible for them. That's why the breakthrough happened. Like, just give it time is what I'm saying. Give it time. They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. So Japan and South Korea met with President Biden and decided to cooperate in a three-way thing, in a three-way deal. That's pretty significant. Like, that's huge. That's huge. Like, I don't know if you guys can understand it. I mean, maybe. Like, Americans are kind of removed from it, maybe. But remember, these countries have existed for like these nations have existed for like millennia. These cultures, these people. So that's a lot of history, and part of that history is Japan is Korea constantly being invaded by both the Chinese and the Japanese. They can't catch a break. They can't catch a break. They just can't catch a break. Always getting invaded by either the Chinese or the Japanese. Like, I went to Seoul, right? I went there. And, like, it's a huge city. It's huge. And it's huge. But they don't have a whole lot of old stuff. And you think, whoa, why don't they have a whole lot of old stuff? And it's because they've been constantly invaded, and their shit gets destroyed, and the invader builds their own stuff. And then they kick out the invader, and then they build their stuff again. And then another invader comes out, and then like destroys their shit. And then eventually they kick out those invaders, and then they build up their shit. And then they get invaded again, and then they get their shit destroyed. And then they have to rebuild again. Like, Koreans got constantly invaded, constantly invaded. Because they're like a bridge between China and Japan. Instead of going over the big fat ocean sea, like it's a relatively short hop to go from Japan to South Korea to China. So, and then in the last engagement, the last war, World War II, Japan invaded South Korea and did horrible things to the Korean people. They did horrible things. Japanese, like, there was a reason why Japanese were accused of war crimes. They did horrible things. They invaded and did horrible things. And so it's like a big deal that the Koreans are able to forgive the Japanese enough to work together toward a larger goal. Like, I don't know if it would have worked. I don't know if it would have happened directly bilateral between South Korea and Japan. I don't know if that would have worked. But USA being there, I think that helped. Joe Biden. See? That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about when I say, like, that there's, like, that the presidency has a great deal of power about foreign policy. And you can truly judge a presidency by their foreign policy. Because that's where they're least constrained by Congress. They're least constrained by the judiciary. In foreign policy, executive is supreme. More or less. I mean, Congress can pass laws, but otherwise, yeah, the executive reigns supreme. That's why Donald Trump was able to like cozy up to Kim Jong-un, of North Korea. The same guy who's threatening to fucking nuke Japan and South Korea. The same guy. Like, do you see what I mean? How dangerous and bad was Donald Trump? Oh, it hurts my head. Like, to even like try to comprehend how many people live in that region. It's not like the West where it's a lot of empty wilderness, empty space. There's a lot of people in that region. There's a lot of human beings, a lot of souls in that region. A lot of spirits. So, yeah, just looking at foreign policy, that Joe Biden was able to make this happen between North and South Korea. Or not, I mean, South and Korea and Japan. I think is amazing. Is great. Yeah, sorry about that Freudian slip, huh? Because Imperial Japan was like North Korea in a lot of ways. Imperial Japan was like that. Imperial Japan was terrible. Imperial Japan, like, that's the thing. That's what makes Japan such a success story. Is that, well, I mean, Germany too, right? They both turned to democracy and are like doing a lot better because of their turn to democracy. I mean, don't count out Japan, right? They're like the fourth or fifth largest economy in the world. Like, they're ginormous. So yeah, if you want to look at a measure of candidates between you want to look at their foreign policy. And when I looked at Donald Trump, his foreign policy was he made friends with Russia, he made friends with Kim Jong-un, he made friends with Mohammed bin Salman. So all the dictatorships and evil people he made friends with. And he was a jerk to all of our American allies. He was a jerk to the EU. He was a jerk to Canada. He was a jerk to Australia. He was a jerk to South Korea. He was a jerk. He was just a jerk. He was a total jerk to Mexico. Holy shit. What an asshole. Like, what kind of bullshit was that he did? Man. To Mexico. He treated them like dirt. Yeah. Contrast Donald Trump's foreign policy with Joe Biden. Joe Biden attended the Joe Biden like went to the like reconstituted NATO. Remember, Donald Trump was like wrecking NATO. He was wrecking NATO. And he said that he wouldn't even honor Article 5, or I think it was Article 5, which is the article that says that you have to come to the common defense of everyone. Attack on one NATO member is attack on all NATO members. Well, Donald Trump was saying, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. He was casting doubt on it. Donald Trump withdrew from treaties, from nuclear treaties that allows Russia to do new research on nuclear weapons. We were in a treaty with Russia that says you can't do research on new nuclear weapons anymore. And Donald Trump left that treaty so Russia could make new nuclear weapons. Just look at the foreign policy, and that will tell you who's on whose team. Joe Biden, and then look at the first impeachment. Remember the first impeachment of Donald Trump? Why was there a first impeachment of Donald Trump? What was that? What was that about? Why did Donald Trump get impeached the first time? Remember his quote perfect phone call? The phone call where he was caught doing quid pro quo with the Ukrainian president, which is illegal, right? Because Donald Trump didn't own that money. He didn't own that aid. It was already appropriated and sent and getting ready to be sent to Yeah, hold on 1 second. Camera. All right, pause, mute. All right. All right, there we go. Hello? Test, test. All right. Yeah, thank you. All right, what was the first impeachment about? Congress already appropriated money and arms and defensive weapons to go to Ukraine before the Russian invasion. Why? Because the point of giving Ukraine defensive weapons is to deter any Russian invasion. Like, look at all these fat weapons that we're giving our ally. Don't invade Russia. Look at these fat weapons we're giving them. If you invade, you're gonna die. Don't invade. Look at the weapons we're giving them. That was the idea that Congress had, right? Okay, Donald Trump stopped that aid. He didn't want that aid to ever go to Ukraine. He never wanted that aid to go to Ukraine. Why not? Because that aid going to Ukraine puts Ukraine in a stronger position vis-a-vis Russia. Ukraine is less likely willing to roll over to Russian demands for corruption if Ukraine is able to defend itself. So, and Russia, and remember, Donald Trump was on Team Russia, Team Putin. So he never wanted that aid to go to Ukraine. And he wanted to find a way to profit for himself. So he made the phone call to Zelensky. And Zelensky said, hey, guy, I'm waiting for that aid to come that Congress already approved. They already approved it. Why don't you send me those missile launchers that will stop the Russian tanks so that Russia will be less inclined to invade? Why don't you do that since Congress already approved it? And Trump said, oh, yeah, well, I'm not gonna unless you do something for me. The thing I want you to do for me, Zelensky, is I want you, this is Donald Trump talking. Donald Trump said, I want you to announce that you're going to start investigations into Joe and Hunter Biden. You don't have to actually do it. It doesn't have to be actually real because that's not what I need. I don't need a real investigation. I don't need like actual facts. All I need is the media spectacle because that's what I can play up to create fear, uncertainty, and doubt. So Zelensky, before I give you these tools that will help you to stop the Russian invasion, I need you to make this announcement about an investigation into Joe and Hunter Biden. This is back in like, I don't know what year it was, like 2018. And Zelensky is like, yo, I don't want to get involved in American politics, but I could really, really use those weapons. And Trump was like, well, I could really, really use that help. So I'm not going to give you the weapons until you do this thing for me. So that puts Zelensky in a really bad position. So as you know, as you are aware, Donald Trump was impeached for that. We had all the records of it. Hold on, I'm gonna keep talking. We had all the records for it. We had all the everything for it. Like it was all written down. But the problem was no one could call witnesses because the Republican Congress would not allow it in the trial. All right. there was a hair in my nose going, causing my whole nose to itch. Okay. But the trial, even though we had all this evidence, no one could call any witnesses. All they could do was replay the eyewitness testimony from the people. Remember all the people who were witness to this corruption attempt by Donald Trump? The ambassador to Ukraine was being followed by like hitmen. and they fired all of the loyal people, loyal Americans who were working in Ukraine, and replaced them with cronies who would go along with whatever they wanted. Like so these people who got fired like testified under oath. so they but Mitch McConnell wouldn't allow them to be witnesses in Donald Trump's impeachment trial because number one, they would destroy like Donald Trump and put the Republicans in a bad position. So Republicans threatened, like, if you do that, we're gonna like call up a billion people. Like the Republicans would call up a billion people, and you won't even hear about your guys because we'll call up so many witnesses. So yeah, the Democrats had to like give in and say, okay, we won't call any witnesses. We'll just go on the strength of the evidence we already have. And so they did it, right? And everyone knew, even the Republican senators said, yep, what Donald Trump did was quid pro quo. That's what he did, exactly. He's like, yep, that's what they said. But it's not a bad enough crime to impeach a president. That's what the Republicans said as they voted to acquit Donald Trump. They say, yes, we admit Donald Trump stole stuff from the United States meant to go to Ukraine, and he used it for his own benefit. We admit that. We admit that Donald Trump stole aid from Ukraine and used it for his own benefit. We admit that. However, the Republicans say that's not bad enough. That's not a big enough crime to kick out a president. Just because you stole something from Congress and did an illegal action, quid pro quo, like extortion is not a bad enough crime to kick you out of office. That's what the Republicans said. So when they tried to convict him in the Senate, it failed. Almost all the Republicans voted to acquit Donald Trump. They said he did it, but it wasn't a bad enough crime to kick a president. Extortion isn't bad enough to impeach a president, to remove a president. So, okay, extortion is not a big enough crime to impeach a president, according to Republicans. Okay. Then there was the second time. The second time that Donald Trump was impeached was after January 6th. You remember January 6th? Here, let's go through the timeline a bit. Do I have that timeline? Did I keep the timeline? I did not. Oh, yeah, I did. So the timeline goes like this. On November 11th, this is according to the audit for the Georgia, leading up to the Georgia foreign call. So November 3rd, that was the election. The night of the at like midnight or 1 a.m., November 4th, or on November 3rd, Fox News calls Arizona for Joe Biden. So on November 3rd, that night, Fox News calls Arizona for Joe Biden. Later that night, early morning, like 1 a.m., November 4th, Donald Trump declares victory. And then he says he won the states he won certain battleground states because of voter fraud. He starts declaring voter fraud. And Georgia is one of the states that he says voter fraud. So he says we need to do an audit because there's been voter fraud. So Raffensperger starts an audit. On November 19th, the Georgia audit finishes, and it finds that Biden wins. And then on November 20th, the election was certified for Biden in the state of Georgia. On November 21st, Trump requests a recount. After it's already been audited, he wants and certified. He wants a recount. We say, all right, fine. Let's do a recount. They do the recount, and December 7th, Biden wins the recount. Biden wins the audit. Biden gets his election certified. Biden wins the recount. On December 14th, electors vote. And then on January 2nd, Trump makes a phone call on January 2nd to Georgia saying, hey, I need you to find me 11,000 votes to win the Georgia election. So that's the timeline that we're working with. So on January 2nd, 4 days before his attempted coup in D.C., he's calling Georgia to tell the Georgia election official to overthrow the election. So and then January 6th happens, and then the House impeaches Donald Trump for trying to overthrow the election or overthrow the country on January 6th. And then Republicans vote to acquit him. That's how come you know the entire Republican Party is complicit with Donald Trump. Because you look at their impeachment vote. All the senators who voted to impeach Donald Trump are complicit in the overthrow of democracy. That's how you voted. That's how you voted. I'm not saying it. That's how you voted. So who are the people in Georgia? We got Donald Trump's chief of staff. That's Mark Meadows. His Kraken lawyer. One of his lawyers. Because remember, if you're gonna, when you do crimes with lawyers, you have an extra layer of protection. Lawyers are officers of the court. They're officers of the court. They're on the inside. Man, I'm talking loud, huh? Let me turn down my voice meter banana. They're officers of the court. So they're like on the inside, and they have this protection, attorney-client privilege protection. So that's an extra layer you have to protect. However, this attorney-client privilege doesn't protect you in the service of crimes. Well, how do you know there's going to be crimes being committed behind that wall? It's really, really hard to first prove that there's been a crime committed behind that wall. Because you can't talk to them. They won't say anything. You have to find other ways to prove that, hey, guys, look, there's a crime being committed behind this wall. We need to pierce it. We need to get through. After you prove that, then you can pierce through the wall and force them to answer questions that would normally be protected by attorney-client privilege. So Donald Trump knows this very, very well. That's why he used a lot of lawyers to do his crimes. He uses a lot of lawyers to do crimes. One of the lawyers was Michael Cohen. Another lawyer he used was Rudy Giuliani. Another lawyer he used was Sidney Powell. And I don't know the names of the rest of them. I don't know these other people. I don't know these people. But I know these four here are also involved in the January 6th attempt to overthrow the United States. So these two are have two crimes going at them at the state level to overthrow the Georgia election and at the federal level to overthrow the national election, at least. And I'm wondering, where's Nevada? Where's Nevada? I know for sure they did the same thing in Nevada. They tried to get a slate of fake electors to send to Washington D.C. Why hasn't Nevada opened its own investigation? Are you just gonna let these Republicans like literally stage a coup out in the open and get away with it with nothing happening to them? Like, is Nevada doing anything about that at all? It seems pretty insane. I know that crazy dude Robert Beatles from California. I know he's in Nevada trying to like bully a bunch of Nevada election workers. But like, yeah. What's going on, guys? Nevada, are you going to do anything about that? I'd be pretty upset if a political party tried to overthrow my election and make my vote not count. So that's going on in Georgia. Yeah, dude. That's the way it is. He's an enemy of democracy. That's how you need to frame it. That's how you frame it. You don't frame it like, ooh. I think the New York Post did a big glamour shot of him. But that's the wrong way of putting it. You can tell the owner of the New York Post is a fascist because they use their paper to do a glamour shot of Donald Trump. Who owns the New York Post? Rupert Murdoch, Australian billionaire, media mogul, who is for sure trying to influence American elections because he owns Fox News too. Like, don't you get it? Don't you get it? All right. This paper correctly indicates Donald Trump as an enemy of democracy because that's what he is. That's what he is. He's literally an enemy of democracy. He tried to overthrow the election. He's like on the federal level and on at least one state level. At least one, and I know it's more, but at least one he's going to court for. Where are you, Arizona? Where are you, Nevada? Where are you, Pennsylvania? Okay. What else have we going? And you know what? It sounds like rah rah rah, right? From me. It sounds like rah rah. They're just Republicans, you know. But that shit is like how you normalize Nazism. That's how you normalize Nazis. Where do you think good Germans came from? Good Germans aren't just like there. They have to be conditioned that way. They have to be conditioned to be good Germans. You have to do certain things to make people okay with inhumane actions. I forget that I forget what it was called. More coffee. I forget. There was an experiment. There was a social experiment where they had an experimenter wearing a lab coat, standing behind a person, and the person was speaking to another person they couldn't see in the other room, and they couldn't see him though, and they had a control panel. And every time the person got the guy would ask him a question, and every time they got the question wrong, they would press a button, and it was labeled. The buttons were labeled. So what you had was a wall. I'll make this even higher. Higher and higher, higher. Keeps on, love keeps lifting me higher and higher. Okay, let's see. I need more blocks. More blocks from Minecraft. Okay, there was a social experiment. So, Is it the Milgram experiment? I don't think it's this Milgram experiment. I don't really remember. I need okay, I need a bunch of stuff, dude. Give me a I need to make a how do you make a an armor stand? Shit. Minecraft recipe. So silly, dude. How to make an armor stand? How do you do it? Come on, tell me, tell me. There we go. Holy shit, what a complicated thing. Only had a lab coat. So to make a lab coat, I need leather armor. Leather art. I can do this. I should have done this in creative. Leather armor. I have to make it. Then I need white dye. Dyes. Dyes. No dyes. No white dye. I can make white dye. You can make white dye. I can make white dye. Let's see. Like this. White. No. Oh yeah, like that, and then white dye. Ha 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 ha. Alright, so do I need a cauldron, or like how can I do this? Oh no, I don't know. Sweet. Okay. Ooh yeah. Ooh yeah. The Milgram experiment. Maybe it wasn't the Milgram. Maybe that's the prison experiment. Oh, I need more blocks. So in this experiment, oh, I should make one more of these guys. And redstone. Okay, so here's the experiment. Oh, I should have got. Get rid of you, dude. I need to make a door. No wood. How could I not have wood? It's like the most basic thing. We must always have wood. Wait a minute. That's a pry prism. You don't always want. No. No. Okay. What was I getting? A door. That's fine. Oh, and wood. I said wood. That's right. Okay. Oh, dude. Frames per second, go away. Okay. So what do we got here? We got a bunch of buttons. We got a door. Okay, and then you got a guy sitting back here. He's just sitting back here, and he's got redstone attached to him. And then over here, you have a series of buttons. A series of buttons. Okay. And this guy is wearing a white lab coat. White lab coat, right? That's authority. He's got authority. because of the white lab coat, he wields authority. Isn't that weird? He wields authority. So there's another person in here, right? And he's attached to the machine. And there's a person over here. So his job, this person's job, is to read questions to the through a microphone. How do I make a microphone? Oh no, not like that. I need fences. His job is to read questions through a microphone to the guy over here. And who will hear it and then answer. But he cannot see the person over there. You can't see him, right? You don't see anything. All you can do, you can hear him through the megaphone, but you can't see him at all. And then right next to you, there's a guy wearing a white lab coat, holding a clipboard, and he's looking at you and writing things as you do stuff. He's just writing shit down as you do stuff and looking at you. So your job is to read questions to the guy on the other side, who's hooked up to a machine and it has who can hear you. You can't see each other. Okay, when he gets a wrong question, you press a button, and then the buttons are labeled, right? They're labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way up to like 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 12 to 12. It goes all the way up to 12. And each of these is labeled with a description of a shock, the kind of shock that you're going to give the person on the other side. So this person here is told that what we're studying is the effects of punishment on a person's ability to learn. That's what they're told. That's what they're told. So they believe that this person is the researcher and that this person here is a fellow experimenter. They're subject. They're just, they volunteered. They both volunteered for this experiment to learn, and they rolled. They drew straws, or I don't know how. It was random. They were determined that person would be the questioner and this person would be the answerer. That was just the way it worked out for them, right? Because they're both volunteers. And then this person here was the scientist studying all this going on, because the goal is to learn about punishment and its effect on learning. So each one of these is labeled to be a shock. This is like a barely shock, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit worse. Now it's getting uncomfortable. And over here, you're into like moderate shock. Over here, it's like a light shock. And over here, it's moderate shock. And then it's getting worse, and then it's getting worse. And now you're getting to severe. Now you're getting to dangerous. Now you're getting to like super, super dangerous. And now you're getting to like dead. He's going to be dead. So they're all labeled. All the buttons are labeled, right? And you can't see nothing. You can't see anything. You have no idea it's happening. Nope, no idea. And this person's job is to read questions to the person over there. And they're both, what this person thinks is that they're both just doing an experiment. That's all they're doing. Unbeknownst to this person, everybody's in on it. Everybody's in on it. The scientist is in on it, and the person over here, he's in on it. He's not really hooked up to a machine. He's not really hooked up at all. Not at all. Nope. This person thinks he is. He believes he is. He was lied to. So he goes over there and he meets the person and he sees them hooked up, right? So he sees with his eyes, he verifies with his senses that everything's supposed to be the way it's supposed to be, like that it was told, right? The only time he can't verify it is when he goes back over here to like do his job. That's when he can't verify it and he can only hear him. So the questioner starts asking questions. And, you know, sometimes they get them wrong, and they do little light shocks, and the person's like, oh, how do you felt it? And then the person, that's what they hear. And then they're like, ooh, okay. And then they get another wrong question. So then they go like, oh, okay, yeah. And then they're like, ouch, oh, that sucks. And they're like, oh, maybe you shouldn't ask another question. And then if the person here starts to question it, starts to be like, oh, I don't know if I should do this, then the person back here holding the clipboard, all they would say is proceed with the experiment. That's all they would say. They wouldn't coerce. They wouldn't punish. They wouldn't do anything. That's all they would say is proceed with the experiment. So the person, nothing was chaining them there. Nothing was holding them there. Nobody was forcing them to press these buttons. But in many instances, the person would keep going. Ah! They're like, wait a minute. And then they'd get another wrong question. They're like, ow, I want to stop. And then if the person said, wait a minute, what are we doing? And then the experimenter would be like, proceed with the experiment. That's it. And if they said, well, what if I leave? And then the person, the guy wearing the robe, the coat would say, if you leave, you will forfeit your money. Oh, no. If you leave, then yeah, you will forfeit the money that you were owed because you didn't finish the experiment. That was it. Those are the two things he could say. Proceed with the experiment. If you leave, or if you stop the experiment, you will forfeit the money that we're going to pay you. So some people would keep going. Some people would stop and say, well, forget you, I'm out of here. No way am I doing this. Or some people would be like, no, I'm not doing it. I refuse. Some people went all the way up. It got worse and worse. They're like, please stop, please, no. And then nothing. They wouldn't hear anything. And they would keep going. If they heard nothing, they'd say, what do I do? They would say, proceed with the experiment. And they'd go all the way up to death. They would go to death. Some people. And then the experiment was over, right? It was over. Because the experiment wasn't really about learning and punishment. The test was really about what people will do under, for authority, under the pressure of authority. That was the real experiment. That was the real thing they were testing. What people would do under authority, the pressure of authority. The robe gave the person authority. And just using those two phrases and the proximity of the examiner or of the robe guy to the questioner, those things put a lot of pressure on people to go through the whole deal. This guy was never ever hooked up to a machine. This guy was never ever in danger. It was a recording. They played a recording because that way it was consistent throughout the entire thing. Because he can't act consistently. You can try, but there's going to be variations. So for the experiment to be consistent throughout, that the guy's acting wasn't a factor, they played a recording of it. So it was never different. It was always the same. Yeah. So what that shows you is that the power of authority can make people do things they wouldn't normally do. Like, you couldn't just go up and say, hey, why don't you press these buttons and torture somebody? They wouldn't do it. But if you place that person in a certain context, that pressure is telling them how to act. That pressure of the entire context is telling them, giving them instructions on how to act. And if they try to deviate from the expectations, it's very, very uncomfortable for them. They can do it, they can leave, and a lot of people did. They said, fuck you, I'm not doing this, and they left. A lot of them. But some people went all the way. So yeah, I think it's important that these people who tried to overthrow our government are punished and publicly so that we can all see. So we can see the mechanism of the state working as intended. Because they tried to overthrow our democracy. That guy is the mob mastermind. He is the mob boss. He is the guy at the head of this whole thing. Like, yeah, sure, he is under Putin. Okay, I'll give you that. But in the United States, this guy is the top guy. He is the mob boss that we should be going after. He's the kingpin. He tried to use his mugshot to be all like fancy, but he didn't count on the power of photo manipulation. Just put googly eyes on him, and he's ridiculous. You can see how ridiculous he looks. He's a sad person. He looks like the bad guy from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. That's what he looks like. But you got to see it, right? Okay. I remember now why I was talking about this. Do you see why this is important? Do you see what this shows us? This is a questionably moral experiment. I don't think you could ethically do this experiment again in modern day, modern days. This is from like the 50s. Like they did this experiment a while ago because they wanted to see what would drive people to become Nazis. What would cause people to like exterminate and murder people? How could you force people to go? Like, how could people be made to like murder other people? How could you do that? And this experiment showed them how you could do it. People will submit to authority and do whatever you tell them. Some people will. Some people are really into authority, and they will do inhuman things in the name of authority. That's what it proved. You can't do this experiment again because it's unethical to put a human being under that kind of stress and lie to them like that. That's a lot of stress. People you would get sued if you tried to do this again. Tried to do this experiment again. You can't do that again. You put these people under a lot of pressure. So, but it demonstrates how humans could be conditioned. There's that word, conditioned, to do horrible things. Let me show you, and you got to understand, Nazis and Confederates are the same thing. They're the same spirit. They have the same spiritual root of fascism. Nazis. So if I talk about Nazis, I'm also talking about Confederates. They're one and the same. They're one and the same. It's just like how the form manifests in a particular society. Like Jesus is not gonna come back the same way, looking the same way he did when he did in the Middle East. He's not gonna be a middle. He's gonna be like. Well, if I don't know what he'd be in the United States, right? He could be anybody in the United States. She, they, I don't know. But how it manifests, how the thing manifests, it depends upon the culture it's manifesting in. It's going to look different when it happens in Japan than when it happens in the United States, than when it happens in Germany, than when it happens in Italy, than when it happens in the UK. It's going to look when it happens in France, when it happens in Russia. It's going to look different in every place, but the root is the same. It's power. So fascists implicitly understand the power of authority over people. So that's why when I tell you that Donald Trump cultivates a shadow army, that's what I'm talking about. He uses his media platform to reach out to millions of minds with no filter. There's nothing to filter him. And he gives them explicit instructions. And he encourages them. He cultivates them. He cultivates his cult of personality, built entirely upon him, on his personality. And he gives them instructions. Stand back, stand by. I mean, those are instructions. Mike Pence didn't have the courage to do what needed to be done. Quote, quote, Donald Trump, encouraging the mob to kill Mike Pence. Like, geez Louise. Like, all this is undeniable. Right? You can't deny this. It cannot be denied. Like, this is happening. I mean, it's the thing that drives the purpose of this show. Because I think a lot of Americans have a a terrible civic education. They have no idea how citizenship and government work. They have no idea. They don't have any idea. And so if they don't have any idea, it's easy to poison their minds with cynicism if they don't know how it works, right? It's easy to introduce lies because you don't need to prove them. All you need to do is insinuate. So yeah, part of the show is a civics lesson for other Americans to understand like what's going on in your government and what's going on in general. Donald Trump is like one of the greatest threats the United States has ever faced. I mean, Confederacy, the Civil War, that was one of them too. That was up there. But this guy is essentially trying to recreate the Civil War. That's what he's trying. Because nothing can stop the Justice Department from going after Donald Trump, from the state level to the federal level. Like, you have to destroy the union if you want to get away from the consequences of trying to overthrow it. And that's what Donald Trump would try to do. He would destroy the union in order to escape consequences. That's what it is, man. Like, talk to me if you don't understand. Talk to me. But it's important that we do punish him. It's important that the United States make him face consequences because he is the root. He's the mastermind. He's the kingpin. He's not the end-all, be-all, right? He's not the everything of badness. Like, he's not like a wicker man, right? We can't put all our sins on him and then burn him, and then all our sins are cleansed. It doesn't work that way. I know you'd like to think it works that way, but it doesn't. It doesn't work that way. Like, but it's important because he's at the head of a cult of personality, of an anti-American cult of personality. So it's important that he be like dealt with harshly. Because he encourages other acts of hate. And it's not like metaphorical. It's not hypothetical. It's actual and real. It's actual dead people. It's real consequences. He is using his platform of social media to encourage his shadow army to launch attacks. In California, shop owner shot over rainbow flag hanging outside store. The fatal shooting happened Friday night in Lake Arrowhead, California, with law enforcement saying the suspect shot the shop owner, Lori Carlton, because he didn't like the rainbow flag outside her clothing store. So that's two things, at least. That's a hate crime encouraged by right-wing media, headed by Donald Trump. Well, really headed by Rupert Murdoch. Really, Rupert Murdoch. Like, he uses people as puppets because while he himself stays outside of danger. So, but yeah, he is fully supportive of the coup to overthrow the United States, democracy in the United States. Business doesn't care what kind of business doesn't care what if it operates in a democracy or if it operates in authoritarianism. It doesn't care. It just wants to make money. It just wants stability so it can make money. That's the only thing business wants. It does, like, if you get down to brass tacks, that's the only thing they care about. So Rupert Murdoch, capitalist, doesn't care if the United States is a democracy. In fact, it wants to get rid of democracy because the fascism will tax them less, tax the billionaires less, and give the billionaires more freedom to enact and to do their will. Democracy gets in the way of the billionaires' ambitions. So billionaires strive to get rid of democracy for the most part. Elon Musk, perfect example. Anyways, these top people, these super high level people, these elites are using their platform to influence malleable people, Americans who listen to authority. There are a certain segment of the American population who are going to listen to whatever the boss tells them to do, even if it means to kill someone. And that's what happened in California. The shop owner did nothing to deserve getting murdered. She did nothing. All she did was hang out her flag. Freedom of speech. She has the freedom of speech to hang a rainbow flag outside of her shop. And some Nazi asshole, some Confederate asshole came by and murdered her. So number one, that's bad because he's being encouraged by a fascist culture being broadcast through social media. Number two, why does this Nazi even have a fucking gun? Why does he even have a gun? What the hell, dude? That's a condemnation of the American system. If any Yahoo can get their hands on a gun to commit murder anywhere, look how easy it is. That's why the United States has the highest rate of gun violence in the developed world. It's because we don't solve it. Why haven't we solved it? Because we can't. Because Republicans consistently block any kind of gun reform. Why did they do that? Because they want a civil war. They want the violence. Traditionally, the gun is what allows them to conquest and to hold power. Traditionally, that's how the white supremacists defeated the Native Americans and drove westward. They couldn't do it before because their shitty flintlock muskets couldn't beat actual warriors with bows and arrows. It was inferior. It wasn't until they developed rifles, and really repeating rifles, that the repeating rifle, that the Americans could get any kind of the Europeans could get any kind of like push against the Native Americans. Anyways, so and the firearm is the thing that let the slavers maintain control over giant populations of enslaved people on their plantations. The entire South, the entire Confederate South, was maintained through the power of the firearm, through the threat of death through the firearm. Like, they couldn't do that if they didn't have a gun. Imagine if the entire South suddenly lost access to their guns. And all they had were like knives and swords. Do you think they would be able to maintain chattel slavery over all those enslaved people with just knives and swords? Hell no. Justice would be coming. It's only by the power of the gun and by the absolute unequal distribution of power that they were able to maintain chattel slavery for as long as they could. And it's still maintained. It's still maintained. You guys don't get it. It's still maintained that way. I mean, look, right? This is a perfect example. Perfect example. This is terrorism. This is terrorism via gun. Like, the whole idea is that he wants to terrorize people into not showing ideas that he disagrees with. That's his whole idea, to terrorize people with violence, with the threat of death. Man. And the people stop, and who does that? Confederates, slavers, enslavers. The slaver people do that. The slaver culture does that. Another example. This just happened. A white man killed 3 black people at a Jacksonville Dollar General store using a Glock handgun and an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle with at least one of the firearms painted with a swastika, Sheriff Takey Waters said. That happened August 26th. That's yesterday. How could such violence happen? How can, like, it's because the white supremacists. It's because the white supremacists are being encouraged by their white supremacist leaders like Donald Trump, like the right-wing media. Like the right-wing media is doing, and it has real consequences. It's not just rah talk. It has real life consequences. The real life consequences is murder, dead people. And maybe you are so cynical that you feel, oh, well, nobody in my neighborhood got murdered. So maybe you're unable to feel empathy for your fellow American. Maybe that's how you are. Well, best believe that it's still going to affect you some way or the other. Because even if you're wrapped in a bubble where you didn't experience gun violence directly, understand that the number one, that 2/3 of the deaths, the gun deaths in the white population are due to suicide. Suicide. So, even if these mass shootings aren't directly in your neighborhood, people around you are still dying because they have easy access to firearms. And when they use firearms to commit suicide, it's way more effective. Like 99% of the time, it's going to work and you're going to be dead. That's not the same. In comparison, when you look at right? Of all the things you can do, of all the self-harm that you can do, of all the things you can do, a firearm is going to fucking kill you. And that means you're like not here anymore. Which in most cases is a bad idea. Right? The whole point of life is to live. And a lot of people have a lot of problems and they have a hard time dealing with it, and they feel that no one will help them out. And so, in a way, self-harm is a cry for help. It's like, hey guys, I need help. Look at me, I need help. But those self-harms are not fatal. They're not going to kill you. They're not going to remove you from the game, like forever. Because that's what happens, right? When you die, you're gone forever. You don't get to play anymore. Like, everyone talks like, oh, yeah, reincarnation. Man, do you think you reincarnate in the same frame of reference? Like, do you think you reincarnate even on the same planet? Think of all the other, like, places in the universe. Just because humans are limited to 3-dimensional space doesn't mean energy is. So, again, also poisoning. Like, yeah, some people might die, but 9 times out of 10, you're not going to die from poisoning. You're going to survive. And people are going to be like, oh, this person like almost killed themselves from poisoning. Maybe we should get them help. But if you have a gun, no, dude, you're not going to have a second chance. You're not going to get the help you need. You're going to fucking die. And then you're gonna leave behind you a wake of trauma. It's like it's gonna hurt not only you, but everyone behind you. Like everyone behind you is gonna suffer. You may think that no one cares, but there's a ton of people who are attached to you. And when that thing just like snuffs out, it reverberates outward. It's like a gravity wave. It's a gravity wave, dude. I don't know how to describe it. it does damage. It explodes outward. It's not just you. So a firearm, like you don't. I don't want you to die. You know, that's the whole point. Don't die. Don't kill yourself. Don't kill yourself. Nothing is permanent. Like, I don't know how to tell you, like, explain that. Nothing is forever. Even the things that you think, well, this is forever until I die. Yeah, right? Only until you die. That's it. It's not forever. Nothing is forever on this planet. Right? If it's forever, it's not on this planet. It's. I mean, maybe it's here, like you can see it here, but it's not rooted on this planet. I guess I don't know how to describe it. Like, it's forever. I don't know how to describe it. When it's forever regardless. But like, basically, everything changes. Nothing is permanent. Like, even happiness is temporary. Because it's an emotion, right? Don't try to hold on to it. If you try to hold on, like, here's the Buddhist thing about it. If you try to hold on to happiness, if you try to hold on to it, regardless of, I mean, I don't know, maybe you can hold on to happiness regardless of the things going on. But, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't, like, kill yourself chasing after happiness. What does the Buddha say? The Buddha say to be still. Just be still. And if you're chasing after happiness, then you're not still. You're chasing. Just do what you got to do. And what do you got to do? Only you know. How do you know? Sit and think about it. It will come to you if you just calm down. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should hang out with actual Buddhists. Anyways, all I'm saying is that don't kill yourself. And in our culture, unfortunately, a lot of people have access to firearms, which unfortunately means a lot of people kill themselves successfully. So even if it doesn't happen in your neighborhood, you are still likely affected by firearms being widely available in the United States. Look what Australia did. Look what Australia did. In 1996, after a mass shooting, Australia banned firearms. Like, literally banned firearms. They went around the country, bought up all the firearms they could find, and melted them into slag. into like nothing. Melted them into metal. To scrap metal. And then the rates of suicide, like, plummeted. It was already trending downward, but look at, like, how much it dropped just by doing that. Just by getting rid of guns. If you get rid of guns, you will reduce suicides, and suicides are the number one is the primary way white people die to firearms. And remember, America has the most firearm deaths in the developed world. People will point to Mexico and be like, "Oh, what about Mexico, man? Mexico doesn't have I think they have, like, I don't think they even have a gun manufacturer. They might have, like, 2 gun manufacturers in Mexico, and, like, you can't get guns. You can't. They won't sell to you. You can't get a gun in Mexico from the government. You have to get a gun. If you get a gun in Mexico, it's an illegal gun. Where do those come from? The United States. The United States. Cartels smuggle weapons out of the United States and into Mexico to wage war against the Mexican government. The Mexicans' gun problem is the American gun problem. Just like the Mexican drug problem is the American drug problem. I remember the saying, "Poor Mexico, so far from heaven, so close to the United States." Just like that saying about Reno, Nevada. It's so close to hell, you can see sparks. But all right. If you get it, you get it. Alien. That's what I want to be. I'm like an alien. Okay, Fortnite. Yeah, that's like a total formulaic ska song, alien song, on Fortnite. That's the only place I hear it. Because I don't really listen to music anymore, like from the radio. That's what I was thinking. I used to listen to it all the time, but that's because I used to work in retail, and so you have to listen to it, because that's what. And then plus, yeah, back in the day I was poor, so I listened to the radio all the time, and so I had to be subjected to ads all the time. Anymore, people buy subscriptions to Spotify or whatever to like avoid the ads, but back in my day we couldn't do that. I'm old. Okay, what else is going on? So we gotta take care of guns. So both of those stories are examples of how white supremacy intertwines with gun violence, and that how white supremacy is the reason why the United States can't solve its gun problem. Because every time it tries, the political wing of white supremacy embodied in the Republican Party thwarts it. Every time. I'm not making it up. I'm just connecting the dots. That's all I'm doing. Connect the dots. La la la. Oh yeah. So I made a mistake, and I need to own up to it before I go too far up out of the gate and go astray. I made a mistake. Early on in this series, I made a truth claim that's saying, hey, what I'm saying is authentic. I believe it, and it's authentic. It comes from my heart. Therefore, it must be true, and it's worthy of consideration. And it's what people hunger for. Well, they might hunger for authenticity, but it's not necessarily true or correct. Just because you believe it fully doesn't make it true or correct. So that's a bad assumption on my part. Like, what I say, I may say it with my heart and my full throat, and with my whole chest, but just because I do doesn't mean it's correct. Like, I'm always open to being corrected if I've made a mistake. Oh no! Oh no! Ah! Ah! My wings broke. My wing. I forgot to check the health of my wings. Oh no! I flew around too much. At least I fell over water, right? Ah! How funny! How funny! That's hilarious. Look at that guy. Trying to kill me. That's hilarious. Okay. So there was a guy who was up in the news, right? Because he went out to the woods and he sang a song with all his heart, and the right-wing people picked it up and said, "Look, this guy is singing with all his heart. It must be true. Listen to what he says." And what he said was dumb. Ah! What he said was dumb. I haven't listened to the song, right? Why would I listen to the song? I don't need to listen to. I can read the lyrics. That's all I need. What he said was dumb, and I need to. But it's a disguised dumb, right? It's not a dumb that is like on its face. You have to decode it to understand why it's dumb. So here are the words. You gave them the song. So here we go. I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay. Okay, right? Who does this? Who's responsible for that? The elite, the bosses, right? The factory, the owners, the mine owners, the coal barons. They're the ones responsible for working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay. In fact, it used to be worse. It used to be super dangerous working conditions where you would die or you'd have to retire early from black lung. Like, it used to be worse. So I've been selling my soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay. So I can sit out here and waste my life away. Drag back home and drown my troubles away. Okay, so I see a few things here. I can sit out here and waste my life away. Who says you're wasting your life away if you're not working? Dude, you get to hang out and do whatever you want. That's called freedom. Hang out with your family, raise your kids, or pursue your hobby. Who cares if it's like model trains or fishing or whatever? It's your hobby. Do whatever you want. Like, do you climb mountains? Awesome. Do you ride bikes? Neat. Do you collect like collectibles and arrange them? Awesome. Like, do you make models? All the better. Do you read books? Great. Like, I don't care. Do you crochet? Fantastic. It doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter. That's your freedom. That's what makes it so cool. Okay. Drag back home and drown my troubles away. Oh, wait a minute. You're drinking alcohol. Well, let me tell you, friend. I knew my dad drank alcohol to drown his troubles away, and he died real young, and it was a real bad death. It sucked. It sucked. He destroyed all his relationships along the way. I'd be like, that's what it was. He destroyed all his relationships. And anytime you tried to help him, whatever aid he got, he gave it to alcohol. I saw it time and time again. Alcohol is the worst way to deal with your problems. It's the worst way to do it because my dad is dead. I'd rather have my dad here than be talking to like. All right. So. But why did he do it? Because why did my dad drink his life away? Because he sold his soul, working all day, overtime hours for bullshit pay. He shouldn't have to work overtime to get a decent salary. He should have been getting that decent salary anyways, and then overtime would have been even more bonus. But he had to spend ridiculous hours of his, and then plus that's not the only part. The other part was, why did he have to do so much work and work so hard and endure such shitty conditions? Why did my dad have to do it? Because he would get frequently laid off. In the winter, there would be no work, so he'd get laid off for like 4 months at a time. So you had to make all the money you could while the sun was shining, because there were big times when there was no work. There was nothing. You had a job, you were just unemployed. And they'll call you back eventually. So, okay, I can understand you, dude. So the next part. It's a damn shame what the world's gotten to for people like me and people like you. Oh, so working class people of all stripes, of all ages, of all genders, of all sexuality, of all religion. That's the one thing we can all like share in common. We all have to work in order to get by. Okay, dude, I'm totally on board with that, right? If we stop working, we'll die. If Elon Musk stops working, things become better. No, if he just goes away, things will get better. He doesn't have to work at all, is what I'm saying. Elon Musk doesn't have to do a damn thing. He can stop working and be content for the rest of his life. But he doesn't. He won't. He has to keep meddling. Anyways. But for the rest of us, for the 99% of us, if we stop working, we'll eventually run out of money and die. And be homeless and die. Like, not have any food, not have any shelter, and then we'll die. Like, that's what happens, right, in our society. So let's get to the problematic. So far, so good, right? Okay. So I wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. So that's the problem, right? Why are you cynical? Why do you believe that it can't be different? Of course it can be different. Like, this whole world is made because humans made it this way. It's made because humans made it this way. It doesn't have to be this way. It's this way because we all do a big fat dance every single day of our lives, every moment of our lives. And the dance we do perpetuates the system we live in. We're able to do, we're conscious, right? We're able to do different dances. We don't have to do the dance that the authority tells us to do. We can do our own dance. and change it the way we want. It doesn't have to be this way. Don't be cynical and give in to cynicism, right? That line right there is giving in to cynicism. So let's get to the problematic part. The chorus, living in the new world with an old soul. Really? So you're from Europe. Interesting. These rich men north of Richmond. Code for Yankees. Because it was used in the past to mean the same thing. In the past it was used to mean Yankees. The Confederates would use the same term to refer to Yankees up north, the Union that they wanted to secede from. So Richmond was the Confederate capital when they did a coup, or when they tried to secede. When the Confederates tried to secede from the Union, they used Richmond as their capital. So when they quote Richmond north of Richmond, they're talking about Washington D.C., the Union capital. So you can see right there, he's baked into it. The code's baked in. It's already there. That's the dog whistle. That's why the white supremacists in the Republican Party picked up this song right away, because that's bing. That's the code for them. That's their code. He's talking bad about. He's putting the blame on Washington D.C. on the Yankees. On who are the Yankees? The Yankees are the Union. The people who are with multiracial democracy. That's who they're talking about. So read it again. Living in a new world with an old soul. These rich men. So the United States is a new world, quote quote, right? It's the new world. It's where we do things differently than the old world, where you're free from the old forms. Like the whole point of the United States is that you're not beholden to the old forms. What are the old forms? Like the old way of doing things. Like, sure, you might have been a peasant back in Europe, but in the United States, your destiny is your own. If you stayed in the old system in Europe as a peasant, your grandfather was a peasant, your father was a peasant, your great-grandfather was a peasant, your great-great-grandfather was a peasant, into time immemorial. You couldn't even remember when you weren't a peasant. You've been on the same plot of land forever. You're going to die in the same plot of land forever. You had no social mobility. You were going nowhere, dude. You were. That's your destiny forever. Forever, ever, ever. Or you could, you were kicked off your land and you couldn't, even though you're on your land for time immemorial, even though, right, the European white people did this to themselves. Before they did this to themselves, they did internal colonization. What does that mean? That means, even if you were a peasant and you had been living on this land for time immemorial, if the Lord lost if the aristocrats lost control of the land and sold their property to make it private property, that meant the private property owner, the capitalist, could fence off the land and kick you off. They could kick you off, so you can never work on the land ever again, even if you owned it forever. Even if you lived there forever, you cannot live there anymore. So what do you do? What does your family do, right? You can't work on the land that you used to live on forever, and you can't there's no land that you own, and you can't just live like a hobbit, because all the land is privatized and they'll come kick you off or kill you. So the only place you can go is the city. That's the only place you can go. So a peasant who lost everything went to the city. They have nothing. They have nothing to sell. They have no wares. They have no property. They have no skills. They have nothing. They have nothing. The only thing they can sell is their labor, their bodies. So the capitalist says, all right, I will put you in my factory, and you can sell your labor, and then I'll give you a wage, give you money, and then you can trade that money for food and shelter, and then that will reproduce you for the next day, so you can come back to my factory and do the same thing again, over and over and over again. So they do that, right? And that's pretty shitty over there, because now you're trapped in another form. But if you come to the United States, it's different. You have freedom. You can have any form you want. You can have any form you want. You don't have to be trapped in these two forms of oppression. You can go to the United States and have your own form. So that was the allure of the United States, to have your own form, to do your own thing in a new world, and to create a new destiny. That was the allure. So this guy, his whole poem, his whole song right now is like totally for the aristocrats. He's an old soul, right? He's from the old world. He's like the aristocrats who wants to keep peasants with no rights, peasants with no land. If the Lord wants to come and rape their wives, the Lord can do it, because the peasant has no rights at all. If the peasant tries to stop the Lord from raping his wife or raping his children, the peasant can't do anything. If he tries to stop him, the peasant will be murdered, and then the family has to do without him. That's it. Keep producing that wheat for the armies. It's pretty bad, right? It's pretty bad. Like, you had no rights. So he's from the old world who wants that kind of thinking. And if you think about it, the Confederacy is of that same mind frame of people being like just animals, just things that you control. Control. That's the idea. Control. They're about control. The old world's about control. So he's talking to his fellow Confederates who are also of the old soul, old world of control. And they complain, Lord knows, they all just want to have total control. And what does that mean? What does that mean, total control? It means total freedom, right? The Yankee idea of multiracial democracy is total freedom. It means white people don't have privilege. Privilege is destroyed. The whole idea of multiracial democracy is the exact opposite of privilege. You want to destroy privilege if you're for multiracial democracy. That puts them at odds, right? That there's a problem. If multiracial democracy wants to get rid of privilege, and white supremacy is all about the maintenance of privilege, there's a problem, right? They don't match. So this song is speaking to the white supremacists who want to maintain the privilege of aristocracy. That's what this is all about. Old soul. The old soul is referring to the old world of aristocracy. And they complain that they're going to lose control. That's what they mean when they say they have total control. Yeah, dude, you want multiracial democracy everywhere, not just in the Yankee-controlled states, everywhere in the United States. So check the next part. Want to know what you think, want to know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do. What? They don't think you know, but I know that you do. I don't understand. Want to know what you think, want to know what you do. So is he talking about the Confederate States or the Yankee States? Because remember, the Confederate States, in the white supremacist idea, it's the old soul. It's the maintenance of old forms. And in the old forms, there is no transgender. There is no gay. There's no lesbian. There's no queer. There's no anything other than the old forms. So by definition, old ideas, old forms, the Confederate way wants to know what you think, and they want to know what you do. By definition. By definition. But look at this whole thing is a confusion. He's projecting the whole thing onto the Yankees. Why? Why would he do that? And because he's doing that, of course Republicans pick it up. Are you stupid? Person who wrote this song, are you stupid about your own song? Come on, dude. Like, you wrote it down. It got written down. Everyone can dissect it now. And look what you did. And they don't think you know, but I know that you do. I don't know if that's what they're talking about. Maybe he's calling you stupid. Maybe he's saying, oh yeah, they think that you're stupid. But he's like, I know you're not. Okay, fine. I know you're not stupid, right? Fine. So you either did this on purpose in order to promote white supremacy. Because you know what? Andrew Johnson was like a different kind of white supremacist. He still didn't like black people, but he wanted to get rid of rich white people. He wanted to get, because he felt that rich white people were getting in the way of poor white people getting power. But he still wanted to maintain white supremacy. So the writer of this song might be like a Andrew Jackson or Andrew Johnson white supremacist. He's like, I'm against the oligarchs, but for white supremacy. But the problem is, white supremacy and oligarchy go hand in hand. Like, you can't get away from it. They're intertwined. So, cause your dollar ain't shit and it's taxed to no end because of rich men north of Richmond. So this is another fallacy. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. In Confederate-controlled states, by definition, Confederate-controlled states, taxes are low. Taxes are low in Confederate-controlled states because they have a different philosophy of how they do things in Confederate states. In Confederate states, they don't believe in that government, that the state government can do good for. They don't believe in the general welfare of people. In Confederate states, they don't believe in the general welfare of humans, of citizens. Instead, they believe in hierarchy. The whole point of Confederacy is hierarchy. So in Confederate-controlled states, taxes are low. What that means is you have shit services. You have shitty roads. You have shitty police departments. You have shitty fire departments. You have shitty schools. You have shitty social services. You have shitty infrastructure. You have everything shitty. Everything public is shitty in Confederate-controlled states. On purpose. They make public stuff shitty on purpose. Why would they make public stuff shitty on purpose in Confederate-controlled states? Because the idea is, if you're rich, you will have access to private things, to private controlled things that cost money, but since you have money, you have the resources for it, you can get it. Therefore, you can have clean drinking water because you can pay for it. You can live in safe neighborhoods because you can pay for it. You can go to private schools and have good education because you can pay for it. You can drive on nice roads, private roads, because you can pay for it. You can go to country clubs and have a nice environment and keep out the ruffian people you don't like because you can pay for it. You can do all these things because it's inherently, the Confederate way of thinking is inherently a hierarchy, a pyramid. And they want to maintain that hierarchy. So this song is projecting onto the Yankees the sins of white supremacy, where he's from. That's why the Confederates picked up his song, because it's a song that projects the crimes of the Confederates onto the Yankees. Like, is he stupid? He can't be stupid. He has to be doing this on purpose. He must be a terrible white supremacist. I don't know. So, cause your dollar ain't shit and it's taxed to no end. Motherfucker, the dollar is super strong right now. Like, compared to all the other currencies. It is fantastic. I beg you, vacation in Japan. Go vacation in Japan. The currency, last I checked, it was 130 yen to the dollar. That means for every dollar you change, you get $1.30 back in money, in Japanese money. Hell, that's like a third. That's like a third more buying power. If you feel like you have little buying power, go to Japan. Your dollar is super strong. Go visit Europe. Your dollar is super strong in Europe. Go visit the UK or Ireland. Go visit them. Go visit any of these places. Your dollar is super, super strong. I'm telling you, your dollar is awesome right now. That's bullshit. And it's not because of Richmond, north of Richmond. It's because of your local state government. Because of your state government. State government is the one who taxes you the most. It's not federal. And we know Confederate states aren't taxed. So that's a bullshit line. It's another dog whistle to let, hey, white supremacists, I'm talking to you. Hey, white supremacists, look what I'm doing. I'm projecting your sins on the Yankees. Now, look at the other worst part. I wish politicians would look out for minors and not just for minors on an island somewhere. So wait a minute. Is he talking about Donald Trump? Because Donald Trump partied hard with Epstein. And he went to Epstein's island a bunch of times. Donald Trump, right? Donald Trump. Is he talking about QAnon? Because QAnon is all about the whole like save the children bullshit, while they try to blame it on like adrenochrome or something, some bullshit thing like that. I think I heard about electrolytes. It sounds like electrolytes. Have you? It sounds like they're like, oh, we love electrolytes. Does it have electrolytes? Oh my god, adrenochrome. Oh my god. All right. Anyways, and then I wish politicians would look out for minors. Did you know that Democrats want to transition the West Virginia economy off of coal mining and onto the generation and the making, manufacturing, distribution, and installation and maintenance of solar panels. They want to transform, literally they wanted to pour billions of dollars into West Virginia to transform their economy. And training, of course, all of this with training. They had big fat training programs to train miners, coal miners, off of mining and train them to do manufacture, distribution, sale, maintenance, and installation of solar panels and water pumps, and everything. Democrats wanted to do this, to transform. In other words, Democrats wanted to take care of miners. They wanted to do it, and they were blocked by Republicans and by what's his fucking name? Joe Manchin. Fuck that guy, Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin is a pro-oil guy, so he doesn't want coal mining to stop because coal mining is a form of oil mining, and he's all about it. Fuck Joe Manchin. Okay, so he's confused. At best, he's confused and stupid. You know, maybe he's stupid. At worst, he's dog whistling. Okay, and here's the big dog whistle, right? Look, Lord, we got folks in the street, right? Homeless people. I see it. Ain't got nothing to eat. I see it. I do see it, right? And the obese milking welfare. What? Well, God, if you're 5'3" and you're 300 pounds, taxes ought not to pay for your bags of fudge rounds. Motherfucker, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? You have this great power and gift of the voice, of the word. You have the power of the word. The word is used to glorify God's creation. You want to glorify creation with song and beauty. And you want to raise up people with the power of your voice, and you want to strike down the high and mighty with the power of your voice, and you want to strike that down. What are you doing, pointing at people below you, underneath you, that you feel are below you? Because that is you, man. That person that you condemned is you. All that has to happen is you have to fall, slip on a patch of ice, and fuck up your knee. That's all that has to happen. That's all that has to happen. Maybe you're helping your mom who can't help herself. She's in bed, and you bent down too many times and lifted her up off the floor too many times, and now your back is fucked up. Oh shit! Now you're talking about yourself. Oh shit! What happened? You're talking about yourself. Look what happened. Why would you do that? That's you, man. Why did the Nazis pick up your song? Because it's a fucking Nazi song. you dumbass. Oh, motherfucker. Like, you just, that whole thing is a dog whistle. It's a white supremacist trope. It comes from Reagan's welfare queens. Ronald Reagan did a dog whistle, which is a nudge, nudge, wink, wink. What is a dog whistle? Okay, in real terms, a dog whistle is a whistle that you can blow that is at such a high frequency that humans can't hear it, but dogs can hear it. So in that way, you can train dogs by blowing on your dog whistle and not disturb other humans, but the dog knows and will go and do something, depending on how you blow the dog whistle. You can train a dog to do this. Humans, like white supremacists, have done the same thing. What's happened is, like, there's a guy named Atwater, Lee Atwater. Lee Atwater was a strategist. So the first time they started using overt racism, well, not the first time, but they started using overt racism with Goldwater, and it was refined with Lee Atwater, who Goldberry, I forget what his name was, a super racist guy, but Lee Atwater crystallized it in an interview that he gave, and you can listen to it and you can read about it. And he said, hey, listen, back in the day, you can call out to your people by saying N-word, N-word, and people would hear you and respond and know this is the candidate they want to vote for. They're white supremacists like you guys. But then it started being a bad thing. It started to hurt you. So he said you have to disguise it. You can't just say N-word, N-word, because it would hurt your candidate. So you have to find a way of saying N-word, N-word, but in a way that isn't overt. And the way they would do it they would call it forced busing or integration, or forced integration. You know, that's the way you can call it N-word, N-word without saying N-word, N-word. Reagan refined this technique by coming up with the idea of welfare queens. It's like when he said welfare queens, people who abuse the welfare system, not like good, honest white people who just need a temporary help for a moment. No, these are bad black people who abuse the system and leech off of good, hardworking Americans. That was Ronald Reagan's invention. And that's his dog whistle, a way of saying N-word, N-word, without saying N-word, N-word. He was dog whistling it. And people responded, and white supremacists voted for Ronald Reagan. They refined it further by saying intercity youths, urban culture. That's another way of saying N-word, N-word, without saying it. So, the welfare queen, when he says obese milk and welfare, and calling people making fun of their bodies, of their poverty, really making fun of their poverty, he's punching downward. He's using the word to harm people, to hurt people who are already hurting. They're already hurting, man. Why would you try to hurt them more? Why would you do that? Look what side you're on. If you want to know what side you're on, just fucking look around you. Look, you wrote this song, and now a bunch of Nazis and white supremacists are all around you congratulating you. Just think, dude. Just think. Look what you did. You used a bunch of racist stuff in your song, and you aimed it at poor people. Poor people have the least amount of power. Here, do you want to know what it was like to be a miner back in the day before we had unions? Before we had unions, this is what it was like. You had fucking 6-year-olds working in a coal mine. That's what it used to be like, child labor. Capitalists don't care, dude. They don't care about anything. They don't care about anything. All they care about is making money. They will do anything if it makes them money. That's why Elon Musk is dangerous. Because all he cares about is money. He has no loyalty whatsoever. So in this instance, what is the thing that stopped this from happening? Stopped little children from going into the coal mines. What stopped them from doing that? Unions. Unions stopped that from happening. A union stopped kids from being workers at 6 years old. Fucking nine. Oh my god. It wasn't the capitalists. It wasn't even government. It was the unions who did it. So look at who the unions are supporting. The unions are supporting right now. They're supporting Democrats. Why would they be supporting Democrats? Because quite obviously we're dealing with white supremacists, and they are signaling to you in the most obvious terms ever. The Kubrick stare is one of Stanley Kubrick's most recognizable directorial techniques, a method of shot composition where a character stares at the camera with a forward tilt to convey to the audience that the character in question is at the peak of their derangement. So in A Clockwork Orange, you have Alex doing their thing. You have the dude in I forgot his name. Johnny, here's Johnny in The Shining. You had Pirate Pyle in Apocalypse Now, I think. And then you have Donald Trump. Fucking mobster, dude. That guy's that's like a mobster way of doing it. He looks like a comic book character, dude. He's a comic book character. So like, I'm not just bullshitting, right? All of this is tied together. All of it's tied together in a bigger picture that may not be apparent from your position, but if you take the time to get a higher altitude, you can see the bigger picture and see what's going on. Remember that guy? Prigozhin. That guy's dead. He's dead. It's worse than that. He's dead, Jim. He's dead. Here, I need to go like this. Remember this guy? He's dead. Hello, Dad. I'm dead. Yeah, we can go like this. We can go like this. You're dead, dude. You're dead. You're dead. You're dead. You're fucking dead. Fuck your peace sign. You're fucking dead. You're fucking dead. Dead. So Russia's investigative committee confirms the death of Wagner PMC boss Yevgeny Prigozhin. My city of St. Petersburg has lost one of her most iconic sons and a great entrepreneur. Condolences. Who the fuck are you, dude? Why? What? Fuck you. You're dumb. You're dumb. He's dead, right? This guy's a piece of shit. Fuck you. Why is it important that this guy's dead? Why is it important that he's gone? Well, it's a problem because he was indicted. He's under indictment by Robert Mueller. We needed that guy alive. We needed him alive so we could capture him and send him to the United States to stand trial. So, why is this a problem? Well, remember, he was the guy responsible for taking over Bakhmut. It was such a bad job. It was such a arduous ordeal for him, for his group, the Wagner group, that he turned on mutiny. He started a mutiny against Donald Trump, or against Vladimir Putin, and he marched on Moscow. The most effective fighting group that Russia had was broken in Bakhmut and mutinied. And 2 months after they mutinied, the two bosses of the Wagner group are dead. They're dead. They were killed off for defying Putin. And all the Wagner people, the fighters, have to sign loyalty pledges to Russia now. They're gone. It's dead. The group that took over Bakhmut is destroyed. It was a Pyrrhic victory. They took over Bakhmut, but were destroyed in doing so. I call that a Ukrainian victory. That was the best fighting group that Russia had, and it was destroyed. Victory! Another schedule to keep in mind. Brandy Buckman. Barring any delays, the Proud Boys finally start to go before Judge Tim Kelly for sentencing starting August 30th. So remember, these Proud Boys have all been sentenced for seditious conspiracy. What is seditious conspiracy? It's a plan to it's a conspiracy to overthrow the government of the United States. They've all been convicted of it. Now they're awaiting sentencing. So, Enrique Tarrio. He's been convicted. He'll be sentenced August 30th at 10 a.m. That's 3 days from now. Once he's been sentenced, he goes to prison. And then Nordine is going to be sentenced August 30th, later that day. Joe Biggs, Proud Boy, is going to be sentenced the next day, August 31st. And Zach Rail is going to be sentenced August 31st. And then Pizzola, that guy's going to get sentenced September 1st. So these are the people, the Proud Boys, who are going to get, who are convicted of seditious conspiracy. We've already got an oath keeper serving like 18 years in prison. So it's going to be interesting to see how long these guys do in prison. I don't know if they're convicted of terrorism as well. I don't know. But looking pretty good, right? So, this guy. Richmond, Northern Virginia singer Oliver Anthony slams use of song at Republican debate. I wrote that song about those people. No, you didn't, motherfucker. He's trying to. So what he's doing now is giving himself. This is called what is this called? Plausible deniability. He's giving himself plausible deniability. Of course, we can see that he wrote that song about the Yankees, about white supremacists, for white supremacists. We can see that he wrote that song for white supremacists. That's why the white supremacists picked it up. He didn't mean it, he didn't write about the white supremacists. He wrote it for the white supremacists. But he's giving himself plausible deniability. That's the nature of how white supremacists used insinuation to give themselves cover. You can't nail down any one thing that I just said. You can't nail it down. You have to interpret it into it. And that's what he counts on. He counts on the nature, the ambiguous nature of interpretation to give himself cover. He's a white supremacist. He knows it. He's not stupid. He knows he's a white supremacist. And he wrote that song to help white supremacists. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy. All right. Yeah, it's not hyperbole. It's not like poofy stuff, right? People are literally getting murdered over this. People are literally getting murdered because of the stupid bullshit that they're projecting out onto the media, to social media. That song is a Nazi song. It's a white supremacist song. And the guy pretending like it's not is just an example of how white supremacists hide their true intentions through plausible deniability. He's a white supremacist. It was crafted perfectly to gather up all the white supremacist sins and project them onto the Yankees. It was crafted expertly. You could not have done that unless you knew what you were doing. So, what is the effect of white supremacist control on the United States? This is another example of white supremacist the effects of white supremacy on the United States. We were doing pretty okay toward the bottom still with all these other high income nations until about what was that? like it starts leveling off when the Republicans take power for 10 years. I mean, like this is like the start of Obamacare, and like this is like the end of it. And then it starts leveling off, and then Donald Trump just like sucked with his response to COVID. So yeah, Republicans have just wrecked the United States. White supremacy has real effects on the United States. It's not just ideological, it has material effects on the United States. All right, I'm getting tired of talking. I'm sure you're tired of listening to me. We need to keep supporting Ukraine for as long as possible. As long as necessary. As long as necessary. Because any spillover will just help us in the event of an issue with China. Because China already signaled it wants to start problems in 2027. So just makes sense. Alrighty then. I want to leave on a happy good note, man. What do I got for happy goodness? Happy goodness. Happy and goodness. The summit was good. I ate a good salad yesterday. Dude, I love that salad. I went to Salem Saturday Market. Like, no nothing going on there. But it was weird. I felt like I was being watched. It always feels like there's someone watching me. Why does it feel like there's someone watching me? Rockwell. Okay, something else good. Oh yeah, this guy. Remember that guy? Remember I told you a couple of weeks ago about how Republicans don't care about obscenities and shit like that? Check it out, dude. That guy who owns the sign was at January 6th. He was there to overthrow the government on January 6th. He's the owner of that sign. Same guy. Hey, dude, I can play that game. I can play that game too. Check out my sign. Remember me? I stood out in front of Salem Saturday Market for 3 years, holding this sign. I've known Donald Trump was a traitor for like years and years and years, years and years and years, and it's only now that people are starting to catch up. He is so dangerous to American democracy. You don't need like he is so dangerous. I've lost the sense of urgency that I once had, because it feels like that justice is kind of moving. When it wasn't going on, dude, I was freaked out. But I think now anyone with a brain who looks can see for themselves. So, anyways, I think goodness can like come out of this. Let's hope so. We got mugshots, right? So like it's happening. It's on. It's coming on, right? Good things are coming on. So until next time, America. Peace. Pagokiro out. Stop. Oh, stop.